This program, The History of the Hymns, is brought to you by The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on the Mormon Channel. Enoch Train's rendition of Hudson, the melody to which we sing The Morning Breaks, underscores the beginning of our story. When the vessel Hudson left the shores of England in June 1864, it carried 863 Latter-day Saints immigrating to Utah. Captain Isaiah Pratt was pleased with the unusual cleanliness, order, and cheerfulness of the group. And he was delighted with the music they produced, which enlivened the tedium of the long weeks at sea. When the ship was preparing to dock at the New York harbor on July 19th, the captain entreated the young choir director, George Careless, for one more song. "I have admired your music so much," he explained. Brother Careless shook his head regretfully. "My music is all packed up," he explained. "Why, I haven't even a bit of music paper, or I would write a tune just for you." The captain remained insistent. So George found a piece of ordinary paper and wrote out on the spot a musical setting for Parley Pratt's lyrics, already widely known and loved. "The morning breaks, the shadows flee." He gathered his choir together and they sang the new composition for one man's pleasure, never dreaming that the tune would, in a future day he could not envision, become familiar to millions the world over through the singing of the Tabernacle Choir. The Tabernacle Choir sings "The Morning Breaks."
My
It was a miracle of sorts that George Careless was there to compose the tune in the first place. Born George Edward Percy Careless in London, the 24th of September 1839, he displayed from an early age a unique and vital spirit. As a child, he entertained family and visitors with the cardboard figures of his little playhouse. But childhood was short-lived for him. By the age of 9, he was apprenticed to a basket maker, who happened also to be an organist, who recognized the lad's musical talent. When George left him to work for a wholesale shoe manufacturer, he was again fortunate. The foreman, Richard Rose, owned a collection of violins which he made available to George, who forthwith taught himself how to play and began to save money for an instrument of his own. Because of his clear, beautiful soprano voice, George was offered a position in a cathedral choir, an offer which included both salary and musical education. However, a new and determining element had already entered his life. He had come in contact with missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and on October 26, 1850, at the young age of 11, and of his own volition, he was baptized by Elder John Hyde. When George's father insisted he learn a trade rather than follow the musical career he desired, George left home. At the age of 20, he began formal studies at the Royal Academy of Music in London, passing the 4-year course in only 3, and then beginning to play professionally, under many of the famous conductors then available in London. At the same time, he gave freely of his talents to the kingdom, conducting the Goswell Branch Choir and giving concerts at London conference meetings. How long might life have gone on in this pleasant manner for him? But on a Sunday evening in 1864, Elder William Staines took George aside and told him, in a sober manner, "I had a dream about you last night, and was shown that you were advancing so rapidly in your profession that your fame and fortune would be made if you remained in London, and that you would not be able to sacrifice it if you did not immigrate to Zion this year." The mind of the young musician was stunned as his friend continued, "Sail for Utah on the next ship. I shall advance you money if you need it. You are wanted in Zion, and I want you to go. What do you say?" Without hesitation, the reply came firmly. "I will go," George replied. And with those 3 words, inspired by the Spirit, a rich, productive life of opportunity and service was set in motion. The Brigham Young University Singers perform "The Morning Breaks." If the sea journey had been pleasant, the weeks crossing the plains from Wyoming to Utah were not. Because of delays, the ox train George traveled in was caught in early snows and suffered short rations and resulting illness. When he arrived in Salt Lake, he hadn't eaten much to speak of for weeks, and it took 3 days of nothing but rest for him to recover his strength. "You are wanted in Zion," his friend had said. Here came the first test of his faith. He met another friend, Richard Bentley, who had reached Utah a few months earlier. "Though I am pleased to see you, George," he said, "I am almost sorry you've come. There are several music teachers here already, and they can scarce make a living." George must have taken a deep breath and remembered the words spoken to him and the challenge. "Brother Bentley," he replied, "I will stay with my music for 2 years. If I starve, you will have to bury me." Within a month of his arrival, he had somehow secured 24 music students. George Careless had established himself as a professional music teacher. That same year, 1865, his efforts came to the attention of Brigham Young, who loved music and kept a watchful eye on its development among the saints. He said of himself,
"Some wise being organized my system and gave me my capacity, put into my heart and brain something that delights, charms, and fills me with rapture at the sound of sweet music. It has been proved that sweet music will actually tame the most malicious and venomous beasts. Who gave the lower animals a love for those sweet sounds, which with magic power fill the air with harmony, and cheer and comfort the hearts of men, and so wonderfully affect the brute creation? It was the Lord, our Heavenly Father, who gave the capacity to enjoy these sounds, in which we ought to do in His name and to His glory."
With this in mind, he approached the young convert. "Brother George, I have a mission for you," the president said, getting straight to the point. "I want you to take the Tabernacle Choir and the theater orchestra and lay a foundation for good music." "I will do the best I can," George replied, just as forthrightly. But his directness did not stop there. Brigham enjoyed sweet, melodious music, but Brother Careless maintained that the church needed music that vigorously depicted the courage and faith of the saints. Brigham conceded and let the young man have his head. He would need it for the prodigious work that was before him. The choir met in the old tabernacle on Temple Square. Though it housed an organ brought from Australia, it was a dark, unheated, poorly lit place, built partially underground, with 6 steps leading down. It was the custom for the choir to sing for each Sunday afternoon service, yet little music was available, and even this had to be laboriously copied by hand. As Brother Careless explained to George Piper, Brothers E. Beasley and Thomas Griggs from time to time selected a number of beautiful sacramental hymn texts and gave them to me at the afternoon meeting. I would take some music paper and compose a tune, hand it to the brethren with instructions to have it copied for Friday's practice, to be sung the following Sunday. Most of the sacramental pieces were composed under these circumstances. Jenny Jordan Frogley sings George Careless's setting of Isaac Watts' text. He died, the great Redeemer died.
He died, the great Redeemer died, and Israel's daughters wept around a solemn darkness veiled the sky, a sudden trembling shook the ground. Come, saints, and drop a tear or two for him who groaned beneath your load. He shed 1,000 drops for you, 1,000 drops of precious blood. Here's love and grief beyond
Brother Careless insisted upon improvements in the old tabernacle, which included a stove and a chandelier. Then forthwith he resigned for 4 years and turned his attention to the Salt Lake Theater Orchestra. For here, too, he had to either compose or arrange most of the music, if music there was to be. He selected 7 outstanding musicians who became his new orchestra and saw to it that each of these received a permanent wage. Rather than dance music during intermissions, he set the orchestra to playing works of the masters and organized performances of opera to offer to the public as well, producing one of the first performances of Handel's Messiah west of the Mississippi. This performance took place in 1875 when Brother Careless was in his mid-30s, and it was a sacred incident which revealed the depth of this man's faith and reliance upon the Lord. In the words of J. Spencer Cornwall,
his wife, Lavinia Triplett Careless, who was a member of his London choir and whom he married after his arrival in Salt Lake City, was to sing the soprano role. But when she arrived at the theater, she was completely incapacitated on account of a severe cold. Brother Careless was implored to postpone the performance, but his sense of duty to the public was so great that he refused. He then asked Joseph R. Morgan, Thomas C. Griggs, and Henry Evans, elders in the chorus, to take Mrs. Careless in the green room and administer to her in accordance with the custom of the church. They did so, and Mrs. Careless sang, "I know that my Redeemer liveth," better than she had ever before rendered it. She was a remarkably talented singer, and her voice still rings in the memory of those fortunate enough to have heard her. Of her rendition, the Salt Lake Herald said, "Her singing was simply perfection. Her young, fresh voice seemed to defy all difficulties. If angels had human voices, surely hers would suggest heavenly music." This seemed almost a prophecy, for in a very few years, Mrs. Careless joined the heavenly throng, passing away on July 10th, 1885.
Returning to leadership of the Tabernacle Choir, Brother Careless redoubled his efforts. When winter temperatures were too cold, rehearsals were adjourned to the social hall. And when absences of choir members got out of hand, George invited local groups to join in, so that there were sometimes over 300 voices in his combined choir to sing at conference sessions. Many of Brother Careless's hymns were written for specific occasions. In our Latter-day Saint hymns, stories, and messages, Karen Lynn Davidson reprints George D. Piper's account of the composition of the tune for Eliza Snow's tender lyrics, "Though Deepening Trials," as Michael Dowdle provides underscore.
George Careless composed the tune while under physical distress. He was very ill and needed encouragement, something to dispel his fears and raise him from the state of despondency into which he felt himself drifting. "Addie," he called to his 11-year-old daughter, "bring me the hymn book." She brought it to him. After scanning the pages for a few minutes, he found what he was searching for, what his physical body as well as his spirit required. It was Eliza R. Snow's hymn, "Though Deepening Trials Throng Your Way." It gave him courage to fight his bodily ills, and the faith that soon raised him from his bed of affliction. At the same time, it inspired the muse that enabled him to pen one of the noblest of his compositions, one which, united with Eliza R. Snow's comforting poem, is among the most popular numbers in our church hymnody.
When George Careless recovered from his illness, he took his composition to Horace G. Whitney and asked him if he could suggest a title for it. Mr. Whitney, after looking it over, said, "Why not call it Reliance?" And as Reliance, it was published. The first hymn collection in which it appeared was the Latter-day Saints Psalmody in 1889. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir sings, "Though Deepening Trials." The lyrics of "Prayer is the Soul's Sincere Desire" were penned by James Montgomery, born the son of a Moravian pastor and missionary at Irvine, Ayrshire, 1771. He published political articles and books, but is remembered mainly for his hymns. Montgomery was a good, philanthropic man who knew suffering from injustice and therefore succored others who had been oppressed. We know and honor him also for the lyrics to "Angels from the Realms of Glory" and "A Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief." Albert Bailey in The Gospel in Hymns, called Prayer is the Soul's Sincere Desire, a collection of beautiful metaphors that describe prayer: hidden fire, a sigh, a falling tear, an upward glance, vital breath. Clayton Pixton performs his arrangement of Prayer is the Soul's Sincere Desire.
Prayer is the soul's sincere desire, uttered or unexpressed, the motion of a hidden fire that trembles in the breast. Prayer is the burden of a sigh, the falling of a tear, the upward glancing of an eye when none but God is near. Prayer is the simplest form of speech that infant lips can try. Prayer the sublimest strains that reach the majesty on high. Christian's vital breath, the Christian's native air, his watchword at the gates of death. He enters heaven with prayer. O thou by whom we come to God, the life, the truth, the way, the path of prayer thyself hast trod. Lord, teach us how to pray. Lord, teach us how to pray.
Thou Dost Not Weep to Weep Alone was written to accompany the tender lyrics of Eliza R. Snow in honor of both the life and death of the prophet Brigham Young. Brigham died in August of 1877, and this song, sung at his funeral, was also included in LDS hymn books through the 1950 edition. Sandra Martinez sings,
Thou dost not weep to weep alone. The broad bereavement seems to fall unheeded and unfelt by none. He was beloved, beloved by all.
George Careless retired from the Tabernacle Choir in 1880, but his work in music for the church continued. President John Taylor asked him to be part of the committee to prepare and publish the first official LDS hymnal to include both words and music. Presented to the church in 1889, the Latter-day Saints Psalmody included most of the 88 hymn settings composed by Brother Careless. His hymns, printed in our current 1985 hymnal, include The Morning Breaks, Arise, O Glorious Zion, Though Deepening Trials, Prayer is the Soul's Sincere Desire, O Lord of Hosts, Again We Meet Around the Board, Behold the great Redeemer die, and he died, the great Redeemer died. Michael Dowdle performs Sacrament, Brother Careless's tune, to which we sing Behold the great Redeemer die as underscore. The powerful words of Eliza R. Snow's Sacrament hymn, Behold the great Redeemer die, are given life and breath by the musical setting created by the man who was needed in Zion. His music lifts the singer with a sense of awe and hope, as well as a sensation of reverence for the Savior. Behold the great Redeemer die, a broken law to satisfy. He dies a sacrifice for sin, that man may live and glory win. While guilty men his pains deride, they pierce his hands and feet and side, and with insulting scoffs and scorns, they crown his head with plaited thorns. Although in agony he hung, no murmuring word escaped his tongue. His high commission to fulfill, he magnified his Father's will. Father, from me remove this cup, yet if thou wilt, I'll drink it up. I've done the work thou gavest me, receive my spirit unto thee. George Careless died on the 5th of March, 1932, at the age of 92. At his funeral, his friend Charles Richmond said of him, "Notwithstanding great honors and privileges had come to him, he still loved those humble things of life and was willing to contribute of his time and energy for the accomplishment of those things which were required of him. You are wanted in Zion," his friend in England had told him, when he was little more than a boy. George Careless fulfilled the responsibilities and the trust that were laid upon him. He was true to the faith and true to the inner vision of his own gifts, so that saints everywhere for generations to come could thrill to the music and the spirit of the music which he created. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir and Orchestra at Temple Square perform The Morning Breaks. History of the Hymns by the Mormon Channel is brought to you by The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.